We always try to make it short and sweet. Do we succeed? No. Hey, thank you for joining the Escape With Me Book Club. Escape with me, Sam Reiner.
And me, Danielle.
Into our most recent read, come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We'll be covering the book from beginning to end, so there will be spoilers. Today we're going to former Shreveport, Louisiana, United States. Yes, I've finally accepted it.
Confirmed.
I don't know why I fought so hard, honestly. I was editing the episodes. The first one I was like, yeah, Sam, you're right. But I was doing Shatter City, and I was just like, girl, just accept it.
Yes, you were wrong. It was okay. We were going to get there eventually. Post-apocalyptic. It's like with Hunger Games. It's vaguely somewhere in America. It's fine if you're wrong.
Yeah, it really does not matter. For the longest time, we both thought the original series took place in the Appalachian Mountains, and it taking place in Seattle changes nothing.
Yeah.
But published April 6, 2021, Mirror's Edge is the third book in the Imposter series. Wait, I just realized this is 2 years later.
It's a COVID book. Yay! Aren't you guys excited? Just kidding.
Although he probably wrote it. I don't know.
I think he at least mapped it out. My problem I'm finding with is there's been a lot of recent releases of books, and 2 or 3 chapters in, it's like, this is a COVID book, and I hate it.
So true.
This does not talk about a pandemic, guys. I'm so excited. Anything else?
No, they just destroyed the world.
Yeah, but like in a fun way.
Mirror's Edge is the third book in the Imposter series, a sequel to the author's original Ugly series. The time has come to rescue Frey's friend, Boss X. But much more is in the works than Frey ever realized. Will Raffi and Frey stand together at the end of the world, or will one need to fall? Finally! I knew Raffi was sus from book 1!
I know.
It's so frustrating. Anyway, background. This is a you pick. We both read the original series in middle school. This is my first time reading the series. You read the whole series. Blah, 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 blah. I just want to rant about how I was right about Raffi being the worst person.
I know. The foreshadowing and the little clues are immediately. They're everywhere. They're not subtle.
And she just kept sticking by her. And I was like, she's going to screw you over the first chance she gets.
Yeah, unfortunately, Frey was traumatized. Trauma bonded.
She was trauma bonded, but she also viewed herself as an extension of Raffi instead of her own individual person. And so that's taken some deprogramming, and there's just a bunch of other stuff. But age level, real quick, YA and content warning. We went the longest time through this book without any content warnings. And then 2/3 of the book in, they started happening and they were intense. For no content warnings, and then we get graphic violence, gore, blood, death, suicidal ideations, and abuse, mental and emotional. Nothing for 2/3 of the book, and then we hit it, and it was just like decapitation.
It's still just so tame compared to the Ugliest series.
I don't remember anybody getting decapitated in the Ugly series.
No, I just meant as a whole. We're 3 books in, and there's been some war talk, but mostly it's been like, this building got blown up, but nobody was really in it. I mean, there were some in the last one, but...
Except for the pulse weapons.
The pulse weapons are very violent, actually. Okay, I take it back.
Judge a book by its cover. So we're going to keep going with the tan covers because I like them better. You can tell the artist actually read the book. So going into it, I knew I would understand the cover better once I read the book, but it looked like someone falling down. I'd have to look at it again. Some sort of quagmire. Let's see. My Google histories immediately pulled it up. It's like, I know what you want. But from what I got from it, I felt that this Mirror's Edge, this whole time Frey has been mirroring Raffi, and so Mirror's Edge, she's finally reached the point where she is no longer going to be her exact mirror and whatever. Yeah, it's an image of someone's face and then someone falling inside the face. Please Google it. I don't think I can explain this well, but it kind of symbolic, like someone falling and mentally, and to me that seemed like she was just finally being deprogrammed. I was like, this is the book where Raffi's finally going to betray Frey. That's all I knew going into this book. And yeah, as soon as you get into it, Frey's like, I have a different face. I don't look anything like Raffi.
Immediately. I love that for her.
She hates it for herself, but I love that for her. I got a little annoyed because Diego was like, hey, you clearly have issues where you think of yourself as, like I said, an extension of your sister. So maybe having your own face, you'll be able to figure things out. And she gets mad at them. But as soon as Cole comes in, it's like, well, maybe having this separation from your sister will help. And she's like, oh, you're right. And it's so teenage.
So smart, Cole. I love you.
It's so teenage. Oh, the cute boy said the thing.
Ugh.
Immediate.
Cole Palafox forever.
Wow.
I'm in denial.
I can't blame you. So yeah, Diego is once again treated as the suspicious. That's what frustrates me. She suspects everything from Diego, always thinks they have ulterior motives. They kind of do, but I'm with them. I'm aligned with them, so I don't care. Always suspicious of them, constantly running away from them, gets the AI destroyed, so they have to remake it again. Well, the avatar, not the AI itself. Constantly pummeling Diego, not trusting Diego, they're the worst. And freaking Rafi's over there getting a hall pass.
Yeah, she's like, well, that's my sister. That's my twin. Obviously, same brains. No, girl.
She has empathy.
You have feelings, and she has nothing. I feel for Rafi because of obviously all of the extra trauma and the feeling like she can't protect her sister and dealing with all that.
You feel for Rafi?
I do. I mean, obviously Frey's our girl and she deserves way better. I know. And I know she betrayed her sister, but it's just she had so much of her father that I don't 100% blame her.
So here's the thing. They are 17, so I'm going to give them a little bit more grace because children.
I mean, the idiot things Tally did.
Whoa.
And she was just a normal girl. Rafi was conditioned from her father to take over and rule the country in the ruthless way that he did. Literally had to hide her sister who was a part of herself, even though they're not. And like that was trauma bonding and that was terrible. So I don't know. Not every choice she makes I can defend, but on a whole, I do not hate Rafi. But Frey's our girl, so obviously we hate.
Here's the thing. Rafi definitely deserves a very nuanced conversation about golden child abuse, where from the outside they're getting everything that they want. How could they possibly be being abused? But being a golden child is a form of abuse, which is what Rafi goes through. She's golden child. She's given everything she wants, but in reality, it's the narcissistic parent creating a little them.
Yeah.
That they both want to create, but also don't want to create at the same time. It's very interesting, especially in dynamics where you lose the scapegoat. Seeing the golden child get switched so drastically to being a scapegoat and stuff. So it's a dynamic that comes out of narcissistic parental abuse. So yeah, Rafi is a victim of abuse. It has very confused her brain. Her father has gone out of his way to create a little him because he views his daughters as an extension of himself, thus Rafi treating Frey as an extension of herself because that's the only way she understands how to relate to people, because that is the only relationship she has had with her parental figure. So that's the only way she can relate to people is how can I use you for the purpose that I want to do. Was that Rafi's choice to be abused and taught that that was normal? No. Is what she does okay?
I said no.
Very no. So that's where a very nuanced conversation comes in that, and I intellectually know that.
But you hate Rafi.
I hate Rafi so much.
I know.
It's all of my pent-up rage against Tally from specials. I just immediately put it on Rafi. And then Rafi does worse stuff than Tally.
Yeah, well, because Rafi actually has power. Tally had a little group of teenagers, but Rafi ends up with an entire mob boss, basically.
Yeah, to talk about that farther, no matter what group Tally was in, she was never the leader.
No. Even when they kept making her the leader, she's like, I actually suck at this. Thanks, guys.
She was never a leader. In Uglies, David and his parents are in charge of the rebels. In Pretties, Zane is in charge of the Crims. In Specials, Shay is in charge of the specials.
And yet Tally has been named with the highest face rank and all the power.
Because she just went to arson. Anyway, that's beside the point. So I definitely think some of my Tally hate gets on to Raffi, but Raffi has done enough at this point that I might be putting some of my Raffi hate on Tally because she comes up at the end of the book and I'm just like, no!
Don't you just love a full circle?
No, you just got rid of yours! Don't bring another one back! I stand by the first book of Uglies, and I also stand by Pretty's. Specials is literally just ruined the series for me. I amuse my husband with the fact that I can enjoy a book series and hate the main character.
Oh, yeah. Tally is an idiot. She definitely was making selfish choices every chance she got. And it's hard to root for somebody like that. But also, well, you probably wanted her to fail. But I don't know. She's out here doing idiot things.
I didn't want her to fail because I agreed with her cause. I just didn't agree with any of the actions she took to get there. Also, really bad science.
Yeah, this one has less science. Aren't you excited?
I am so proud of him for having less science and not feeling the need to explain, because I think that's what did him in Uglies, is he felt the need to explain. Oh, the world ended. How did it end? And he felt the need to explain it. And if you had just continued on and be like, yep, Rusty's destroyed the world.
That's apocalyptic. Every book has one of those.
But instead of them bombing themselves like every other series, he had exploding gasoline.
Yeah.
And somehow connected that to them deciding that the average person needs to have a pretty face and have lesions in their brains because reasons? So I'm just glad he laid that by the wayside. The whatever exploding gasoline doesn't ever come up. Anything to do with how the Rusties became the Rusties, just not explained. Thank you. Please just have soft science fiction. It's okay. Oh my gosh. But yeah, we're gonna rescue Boss X. The thing that shocked me was Diego was down. They're like, yeah, we're going to provide a distraction and you're just going to rescue your random friend? I don't understand why Frey didn't have more questions about them wanting to help. Literally, all they were planned to do was to get Boss X out, their random rebel friend, to Diego. He means nothing. But yeah, we're going to provide you a city-wide distraction so you can get this one guy. Of course it was going to be more than anyway.
Too much. It was a little bit much.
That Frey being dumb aside, kind of this whole book. Kind of this whole book series, but sometimes better than others. So okay, whatever.
Well, and I mean, they are 17, and even as much as limelight as Raffi got, both girls were so sheltered, specifically Frey, social inept, constantly making faux pas without realizing it the few times she was allowed to speak. And it's just, yeah, let's just kind of put her in charge. How? Who? Why?
And it doesn't work out, surprise.
Yeah. And she's not in charge, but her opinions are mattering a little bit. And it's like, who let this girl make a plan? You have actual rebel bosses that you know. You have the city of Diego. 17-year-old girl, chosen one, let's go.
Yeah.
But also, at this point, they know it's Frey, right? Or do some of them still think that she's Raffi?
So, everyone still thinks she's Raffi.
Yeah, it's a very confusing timeline.
Yes. So, everyone thinks that she's Raffi through most of the book until the very near the end where she's like, oh, I'm actually Frey. And so one of the rebel bosses finds that out. But then at the end, she just continues to not be allowed to be Frey ever again. But before we get there, I want your opinion. How do you feel about the part 1 where normally he writes things sequentially, one scene after the next, chapter, but this one was a back and forth, and there would be one, oh, we're in the plane about to jump out, and then it would go back and it'd be like, well, when I told Raffi I was getting the surgery, she got really mad. Anyway, we're jumping out of the plane, and oh, that reminds me of the first time that I saw Cole's new face.
It was a lot of thinking, internal, they weren't quite flashbacks, but I don't know. He usually is so concise and cohesive and just keep the train rolling.
It was different.
Yeah. I didn't hate it.
I was confused why he felt the need to do it, because it really did seem like we were jumping between two timelines. So his normal style, I could totally see him doing the other scenes, but I guess they weren't action-packed enough to start the book. I don't know. By the way, they jump out like flying squirrels. Ooh, I have questions about the crash gel.
Pretty cool.
It's something. Anyway, there is a moment where, you know me, I can't let anything go. They see a orbital leave Orlean. No, it's a New Orleans. And she specifically says, going to Tokyo. And first of all, interesting, Tokyo confirmed it exists. I don't remember if that's where extras take place or if it's...
I want to say Beijing, but I think I might be making that up.
Beijing is in China.
Was it specifically Japan?
Yeah, it was Japan because of the cranes and a couple of other stuff. So Kyoto could have been one. I can't remember at this point where extras take place. But how does she know that it's going to Tokyo? Does it move that fast and she could see it do it? Or does it have a flag? Did it have like a little Tokyo flag as it went? And so it's like, oh, that one's going to Tokyo.
It says that from extras, it's the futuristic city of Yokohama.
All right, Japan major cities, let's do this. Okay, Yokohama, a Japanese city south of Tokyo.
Is that a real one or is that the made-up one?
So I don't know how it's spelled because he likes to spell them differently, but Yokohama, Yokohama.
Yeah, that's what.
So I just have questions with that too. How come Japanese cities are just the name of the cities, but all of these are like SeaTac, Diego, Shreve, Orland.
Because America. Because it's not called America anymore, right?
I have no idea. We have never looked at this at a national level before.
Even when we did extras, we don't care.
I have no idea about that. But the plan, this isn't necessarily the book of bad plans. This is the book of plan B. They always try a plan A, and they usually end up with plan B here. But the beginning was just so... We're jumping out of a plane, and at this exact time to go into the city at midnight so we don't have to cross the border. But is there no air border? Like, you can just jump from space? Is it just like a cylinder that extends into the... Like, where is the border for the sky? Because you have a regional border. There has to be some sort of dome, right? You can't just continuously go up. And so wouldn't you read that a plane just crossed the border with the people with the chip? Anyway,
yeah.
That aside, they have to jump out of this plane in flying squirrel costumes because they can't use parachutes because reasons, and they have to do it at midnight, and they're going to go into this very specific lake, and that has been filled with crash gel. Not all the way to the bottom, because at the very bottom there is water, and so they're going to have to jump into the crash gel and then be able to get out with enough air, hoping you don't get stuck on anything or smack into anything or anything, and then they're just going to have to play it cool, like, oh, just going for a swim, and the AI is not going to be like, you were nowhere near this lake, how do you come from this? Danielle!
I don't know.
I have questions!
I think he just forgets about geography and motion, like what should be happening. He doesn't quite know how to get from point A to point B in a lot of his scenes, especially in this book for some reason.
Yeah, but to go off of that a little bit, it was a cool scene. He wanted to do a cool scene with futuristic stuff, sure, whatever. Why doesn't the city have a curfew? Isn't that Tyranny 101 curfew? They're just at the lake swimming at midnight, and this AI's like, yep, that's fine.
But I just love that it's tracking everybody.
But not at the same time for this little blip of time where it doesn't need to track the fact that it suddenly appears in a lake. Anyway, it worked. That's all that matters. You find out because the girls always, or at least Frey always calls their dad father. And so doesn't have a name. And so I'm over here like, well, what do the citizens call him? And apparently, sir does not have a name.
Yeah. You kept wanting him to tie back into somebody else. And he's not. He's just a random white dude, probably, that took over, had a little bit of power.
No name, period.
Yeah.
I'm confused why no name. Because that was a choice to not give him a name ever. I'm a little surprised the girls were allowed to call him father instead of sir, but that's beside the point. Whatever. They managed to get into the crash gel, and Frey helps out Yandri and Cole, because Yandri got stuck in something in the lake, so Cole was sharing his air. And Frey gets down there and gets Yandri's legs free so they can swim up, and it's all good. And we have to act like we didn't totally just drown, even though I feel like the AI should notice that they've been underwater for a very long time. Beside the point, yeah, and now they're just gonna go camping. That kind of feels like the book.
He just loves going camping, okay?
He loves it.
He just loves camping.
There is not a single book that hasn't had a tent.
God, I think that's true. Well, they have to go to the woods and into nature and change themselves. That's what Tally did in 4 books. And now I guess that's Frey's journey as well.
Even Aya and extras had to go camping with Tally.
Yep.
In the jungle to find the extras. That's a city girl. Anyway, Frey starts to find out that there's these people that can write hidden messages on the walls that the AI don't know about. And so she is like, oh my gosh, there's a whole world in my city that I never knew existed. And I also thought this was really cool because this is kind of a callback to hobo symbols from the 1920s along the train tracks or whatever. You know, there's a cat. Oh, that means a nice lady lives here. And there's a bunch of other symbols that they would pass among each other. Police around, bad water, stuff like that. So always love a callback to hobo symbols. But Frey has this moment of, if I'm going to be the ruler someday, I need to understand my people, which gets her in so much trouble.
She just doesn't understand people.
Well, because the problem is she doesn't find your everyday people. She finds a cult. Okay, she basically finds a group of wannabe influencers, but instead of projecting like Aya did in extras, they're doing it for the cams so that when historians come back, they're going to be obsessed with one individual person because, hey, when the rest of the world doesn't have recordings of them, like, we'll have recordings of us, and they're going to be so obsessed. Influencers of history?
Yeah, I mean, it came out in 2021 and influencers were really full-fledged because that wasn't a thing when the Ugly series came out. We had celebrities.
Yes, social media had not taken off yet.
Yeah, so 2005, I think the first book was.
I want to say 2004. Facebook was just becoming a thing, period.
Yeah, and even then it wasn't really for people. It was for students.
It was for college students.
I was going to say, I think I got mine in like 2008 or 9.
I think I got mine in 2008.
Yeah, I was going to say, I held out for a minute because I think I did get mine in 2009. So I was like, I'm too cool. I'm going to stay on MySpace. And I did.
Anyway, this AI, I'm going to go back to it. These have been the model citizens because a spy has created these identities and then they jump in as squirrels. And then they take over, and within 24 hours, they have lost so many merits to a fire, which, okay, that's a pretty normal thing, I would think, that the city wouldn't be weirded out by. But
the sushi in the woods for me, I think.
Well, okay, that is coming. That has not happened yet, which I was so mad when it happened, and then it backfired. Oh my gosh. When it backfired, I knew it was going to backfire. I was so pissed at Cole. Anyway. He was trying his best, but they lose so many merits. And they threaten to go in scheduled construction areas. And then the AI is like, hey, don't do that. But yeah, the AI just does not pick up on the fact that these people who have gained plenty of merits is suddenly losing so many within 24 hours. They do not do anything to curb the fact that they're hecka suspicious.
Well, and they're not even earning any. They earn a tiny bit, the bare minimum, with their club badge or whatever.
They went swimming. Woo! You went hiking with friends. Woo!
Also, I love that you can get merits for doing dumb things.
Exercise and social activities. So real quick, we can sum up section 2. She learns about hobo signals, meets this guy named Jax. He's a criminal, and then they're confused when he crimes, but they end up, thanks to him, getting in touch with this girl, Sarah, who gets them in touch with the futures, and Raffi puts all of her eggs in this basket, and it's like, I'm going to go to the futures, and Zura is like, we have a plan? Frey's like, no, I'm going to go with these futures. We have the distraction from Diego, but we need distractions inside the city, so I have to go and talk to these people. So she leaves the group, and Zura's like, and you do not get back here in 3 days. We are leaving without you. Fair.
Zura is the mom that we all need because this girl didn't have one.
Zura is the adult that is not getting paid enough. Every sci-fi series has one. One person that is doing their job and having to handle all these other stupid people, and you're just like, you deserve a raise.
Well, she's basically Cole's babysitter, I think. I mean, bodyguard type.
The head of the Victorian military, because she's alive, frankly. But yeah, that's all part 2. Part 3 is, hey, we go and talk to the futures and they're actually really, really self-involved and they want to be influencers, but in this special way. And oh, by the way, the city is poisoning them with radioactivity, but they don't realize that's what's happening. They have these little staffs that they poke into the ground and try to find yellow spots, which is supposedly weak spots and like sinkholes. And no, we need to find them because construction. We don't want the machines going over the areas, but in actuality, it's testing for where the heck radiation is. Apparently, nuclear waste was thrown in here within a day's hike of a city.
Super convenient.
This is where I go back to, if this was Arizona, this would make so much more sense.
You don't think New Orleans has radioactive waste?
Oh, it probably does. Let me see. Disposal. Here is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. If this doesn't work, I'm going to go to Wikipedia. So it reports having operating nuclear power reactors, one near Riverbend and the other near Waterford, but it doesn't have any of the other things. That has been last updated in March 2021. Let's go to Wikipedia. Riverbend is near St. Francis.
I love how like a third of this podcast is just, hey, where are we? What are we doing? What are the locations that they're being top secret about for no reason?
I don't know where Shreveport is. To Shreve. Oh, it's probably Riverbend. That is a 15-minute drive. How far away from a generating station do they bury nuclear waste? You've always wanted to know, I'm sure. Oh, it's deep into the earth. Oh, geez, I'm going on to a site that immediately needs to verify that I'm a human. What is happening?
Oh, I don't know if I need to know that much.
According to the NEI,
Nuclear
Energy Institute,
God, I was going to get it.
After nuclear fuel has been in the reactor for 5 years, operators remove the bundles of nuclear fuel called blah, 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 and begin transitioning them for permanent storage. The fuel assemblies are then transformed to a 40-foot deep cooling pool where they will stay for about 5 years.
Doesn't seem like enough still.
After the pool has cooled in the pool, operators remove them and place them into concrete and steel containers called dry cast. Those have no moving parts, are filled with inert gas. They require little maintenance. And for every 1 ton of used nuclear fuel, there are 10 tons of material to store it. So it says right after this. So how is nuclear waste stored? Safely, according to the NEI. Okay, all of the used nuclear fuel produced by the U.S. industry is tracked and traceable. Right now, all of the nuclear waste that a power plant generates in its entire lifetime is stored on site in dry casks. So we now know that, yes, they do store nuclear waste at the power plant themselves, at the generating station. So Riverbend is 100% what he's referencing.
Thanks for doing the research, so nobody else had to. I feel like not a single person but us would actually care to look it up.
You are all welcome. This is so fun facts. Yeah, so they go to Riverbend and not the concert. Poke around there because guess what? He wants nuclear waste because radioactivity.
The motives get lost a little bit. We get it. Power and greed and money and land.
And what's worse than anything else we've ever dealt with? Radioactivity.
Yeah.
Granted, that's not what destroyed us. I'm glad he completely skipped that over and is just kind of implying that we all bombed ourselves to death. Because that makes much more sense than exploding gasoline. Anyway, there are bricks of carbon just, hanging out. The Futures made an entire stage of them.
Makes the most sense.
And for some reason, only Frey realizes that it's a problem. I don't know. Anyway, they're bricks made of carbon. Let me just go ahead and say that means it's carbon-14. There are other forms of carbon that aren't radioactive. Carbon-12 and carbon-13 we deal with a lot. So if someone's mentioned carbon, it's not automatically radioactive, but carbon-14, carbon dating. You know, we use the half-life of carbon to date something, to be like, oh, you have this much left. So yeah, they have just a bunch of radioactive blocks, and Frey doesn't have shoes, so nuclear poisoning, probably. Her feet hurt. And then she falls into a hole that has a lot of radioactivity. And he's handling it a lot better than your one book that had radioactivity. I'll give him that.
Oh, The Age of Miracles?
Yes. I was trying to think of the name. Yeah, no, she did not know what radioactivity is.
Well, that also, the sun was poisoning everybody, cancer.
But it's okay because they put up a curtain. But they still go on school buses and walk around in the sun. And she also doesn't understand the difference between alpha, beta, and gamma radiation poisoning. A thin little curtain's not going to protect you from gamma anyway.
I mean, maybe not take her science seriously.
But she got an astrophysicist to agree to it. It's all in that episode. I made my point. I wouldn't have cared if she put it all in the book and she was just like, I'm just having fun with this. But she went so out of her way to be like, no, this is science.
He was not.
Anyway, that's not important. But yeah, so there's an entire section where the city is just
super radioactive.
Super radioactive. Oh, and by the way, one of the other captains comes along, the rebel bosses. I'm with Frey, because they find out, oh, Riggs knows so much about radiation and all this stuff. And it's like, well, why do you know so much about it? It's like, oh, the rebels want to create a power plant.
For what, though, guys?
What? The people who wear furs refuse to wear synthetic material on their bodies. Want to build a power plant? A nuclear power plant. No, I'm with Frey. That is not what. Granted, my ex, who became a nuclear scientist, would love all the talk about clean nuclear energy, because they get into, that's why they want to build a power plant, because they want nuclear energy to be able to run stuff more efficiently than other things. But these are the people wearing furs.
Yeah, it's very rarely actually worked out with a nuclear power plant, guys.
Well, I mean, it's working out really well for us, but I
mean, not in this time. Well, I guess, no, because they didn't explode either. It was gasoline.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have one.
To be able to do a nuclear power plant well, as we have learned from history, Chernobyl, there's a lot of things you have to get perfectly right. And those people who do those things are highly educated and very experienced. And do these people even know how to read? I have never seen anything that says necessarily that they know how to. How are they going to create a nuclear power plant?
I mean, they have to be able to read at least the secret symbols.
Yeah, but that does not require reading physics textbooks to learn, or chemistry textbooks, or anything that would teach you how to create a nuclear power plant. Why? Anyway, that's just thrown out there. I don't know if that ever comes up again. Please tell me it does. I need closure. Or actually, I'm kind of hoping they don't, because this makes no sense. But that comes up in this book. But yeah, the city's causing them to be radioactive and everyone hates her. And she's like, hey, you should help us bring an end to the spy dust. And they're like, but that's literally our whole cause, is being recorded by spy dust. And I really wish Frey saw that sooner. Duh. I was wondering the same thing. If they're obsessed with the spy dust and they think it's a good thing, why would they help you?
That was such a hilarious moment as a reader, because you see that, oh, clearly they're influencers. But Frey, who only watched the feeds to track what her sister did and be like her sister, didn't really do social media, obviously. And so she meets the futures, this group of people that are like, nah, we're the most important people. We want them to track us.
We want them to record everything we do. And so we literally sit down and come up with plots. They came up with a love triangle plot to do in front front of the cameras so they would be interesting enough for scientists and historians of the future to be obsessed with them.
Which is not how that works.
It's really not. You're asking a bunch of teenagers to come up with, it's just not going to happen. They don't have the worldliness to really understand the crux of these issues. But yeah, that's that section. Oh yeah, and Riggs, by the way, also happens in this section. Frey finds out that Riggs and Raffi had a thing because Riggs figures out that Frey is Frey and isn't Raffi, and so Riggs thinks for a second that it's Boss Frey, fake Frey, and so Riggs kisses her, and then Frey gets very confused, which I don't blame her, because that's a lot of information to process very quickly. And I feel like this had to have been the moment where it clicked for Riggs, because like I've said, all Boss Raffi has done is sat on her throne, make her crown look beautiful and pretty, and had all these outfits and make plans and talk to people and convince them of stuff. But she hasn't done anything. Frey's the one that keeps getting sent on missions. The one that's supposedly the spoiled brat. And so this had to have clicked for Riggs that the only person that could have talked Boss Riggs out of her own command is Raffi. There's no way Frey would have talked her out of her own command.
But like Frey's like, you gave all her power to her, and then he's like, oh, it's temporary. It's like, yeah, I'm sure.
For love or something.
I wouldn't say that. No, I don't think she loves anyone. I think she was just using her. But that's a lot of process.
I do like how, because they have a non-binary character like Yandri, they have a little bit of sprinkle of some LGBTQ stuff in it, but I like that it's subtle. Oh, this is just normal and nothing's a big deal about it, instead of a lot of books, especially nowadays, are trying to make it so in your face. Frey is caught off guard because she knows nothing about her sister.
It's a big deal because she's having a romance, first of all, not telling Frey, but having a romance with this random rebel boss that she took power over, so power structure. Raffi has the whole control of this power structure because she creates this romantic attachment with this person. Anyway, that's a whole thing. And so that's why it's a big deal, and not because, oh, Raffi kissed a girl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's 2024, so more books will start being like that. But for the author of the Ugly series to have, I don't know, the personal growth.
Come so far.
Yes. Tally's friends could never.
No, they were all straight.
Well, and I honestly think her and Shay, I don't know.
We've talked about it.
I think if it had been written now, I think they would.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a very interesting dynamic with those two that I don't think is romantic, and I think it's stronger because it's not romantic.
Oh, for sure.
It is this very specific type of possessive friendness, but also not. It's frenemies. It's frenemies to a logical conclusion and not something ridiculous or whatever. Enemies to lovers romance is popular these days.
Oh my god, I'm having a stupid brain moment. I just realized Scott Westerfeld does the same thing in both of these series. They go to the woods, the main character is kind of an idiot but gets sort of thrust into the fighting and everything. The dynamic of the best friend / sister thing. Shay and Tally also have the same birthday. So, I mean, obviously they're not twins.
That is true. I forgot about that.
So many parallels. He's writing the same series, but better.
That's 100% what the series is. I am a little shocked.
So much better.
That's why I kept being like, okay, Tally, every time Raffi does something. Because it's literally Tally and Shay, but they're twins.
Yeah.
And that's why I was kind of expecting, and I mentioned in Chatter City that he was going to go with the first book, here's Cole. In the first series, that was the rebel. And then in the second book, here's the city guy. But this time it's switched around. Here's the city guy. And then the second book, Boss X, it's like, oh, there's the rebel. And that's the only thing that's different is it's switched. He didn't end up doing that. He might do that in the final book. But that's why there are so many parallels, which is okay.
Yeah, he did take out the awkward love triangle. Thank God.
It was so lopsided.
So terrible.
It was the worst. And you could tell which one the author liked better. And it's just what happens to Zane is a little unforgivable, in my opinion.
Cole would never do what David did.
No.
Not that I think he's comparable either to Zane.
I think he would be a Zane because he's a city guy.
Yeah, but Cole Palafox forever.
So, yeah, that's 2 sections. Right there. Done. That section ends with they're hiking back and Frey's tired and Cole's like, well, let's spend a lot of money to just have sushi and whatever. And this random girl gives her shoes because she doesn't have shoes. And then Cole orders like a crap ton of sushi. And the AI is like, this is a lot of money to be spending on one dinner. And also a part of me was like, I guess that's a lot of protein, but I don't know if sushi is the pick.
They're still in the woods. They're having a sushi picnic in the woods. Also, she just almost died from poisoning.
I'm not an expert at this whatsoever. I'm not going to claim I am, but if I am in the middle of hiking and it's like, hey, I need nutrients into my body, okay, yeah, definitely protein, but I would go for a red meat, like a steak dinner, before I would think sushi. I don't know. That was a horrible decision in my Cole. It flags the AI. The AI is like, this is really weird that you're doing this. So they have that going. And then later on, she gets shame cammed, which is basically like Cops, but the feeds.
Did you ever watch The Orville, the TV show, kind of like parody of Star Trek?
It went like everything. I watched a couple of episodes, got really into it, then I got distracted, and then I never went back to watch it again. But yes.
There was one episode, which I think they might have ended up being 3 seasons. I don't know. It was not enough. That show was hilarious. But there was a full episode that basically did the shame cam thing, but it was everybody in the world got to upvote and downvote people, which I know a few other shows have done it, this same concept, which obviously is what Westerfeld also was thinking of.
There's definitely a Black Mirror episode about it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that's kind of pop culture-y.
I think any TV show that tries to tackle social media definitely does that. And so that's part 4 is shame. And okay.
Literally nothing has happened in this whole book. They've made some sort of friends of the future, almost died, got some sushi. She got embarrassed from the shame cam and took a bunch of her emotions or whatever, but basically did nothing.
Yeah, they've done nothing.
This is a filler book.
It really is. And normally it's the second book.
Well, it's because there's 4.
I don't know. Shatter City is very solid to me. And I said at the end of that one, let's see what happens in book 3.
Nothing.
Because maybe number 2 is skippable. And I don't think it's skippable.
No. This one almost is. I mean, you can't, obviously.
This one is, except for the very last part.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like what happened at the end, so I might skip it anyway.
You need it to read the 4th book, unfortunately.
I'm getting there. So I don't know why the whole section is called Shame, because it's for 30 seconds. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed by this. Anyway, we're going to go on the mission to actually get Box X out.
Finally. That's what we were starting to do when we started this. Your side quest.
Yeah. I feel like if you wanted to do the world building of seeing what Shrev is like, since we've seen Victoria at this point, and we've seen Paz at this point, and we've interacted with Diego enough to understand their viewpoints on things. So wanting to see, well, how does Shrev is a perfectly legitimate book. Don't sandwich it with, oh my gosh, we need to save my friend from being in high intense prison. Also a fan favorite character, so why are we hanging out with freaking Riggs the entire book?
And these random clueless influencer girls.
They took up 2 parts.
It's dumb.
Whatever. They break into the head of security's house. That's when they find out that their spy is Demeter, who's a friend of Rafi's, and Frey is suddenly shocked because, oh my gosh, Rafi has been pulling strings this entire time.
No doy. I just can't believe how naive she was. At least Callie in her book wises up and takes some responsibility and is trying to fix things.
And Shay calls her out every step of the way.
Yeah.
As she should.
Or Maddie, David's mom. There are people, and Zane keeps her kind of steady with some of her stuff.
Said no.
Yeah, Cole is a little puppy, and he's like, oh, this seems like a good plan. Yeah, let's just do this. Or, well, I have to actually leave and do my own thing, but you know what? I love you. Let's come back, and I'll be back.
I'm not going to be in most of this book. Goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, she kind of has Zara, but only really as it pertains to Cole.
She doesn't consider Zura a authority figure, I feel like. Oh, yeah, Zura, she says whatever, but does not take any of it to heart ever.
Yeah.
Or consider her opinion before doing anything. Same with Diego.
Yeah, and Diego, the only one she kind of values is Boss X, and I think it's just because she killed his boyfriend, who happened to be her brother.
Yeah, I mean, that does definitely trauma bond them very quickly.
Yeah.
She was having vibes with Box X before that, through all of Shatter City, honestly.
Oh, no, for sure. I'm just saying, maybe you have to listen to the person whose lover you killed.
Well, he gets arrested right after she figures that out, so...
She didn't do much listening, did she?
But after that, Diego does their attack, and Frey thinks Zura told Demeter her real name for some reason, even though it's really obvious that it's Raffi.
She's so naive. She's just a little sheltered baby.
Girl, you need to catch up on a game. I feel like we've regressed. I feel like we were getting somewhere last book when literally she was like, I don't trust my sister. But not enough, apparently.
Who would betray me? I don't know.
Anyway, the Diego attack is way bigger than she thought because, duh, that one is weird to me, but whatever. They go to HQ. Nothing really interesting happens until they get Boss X out to me. So they do a bunch of stuff, get Boss X out. If you want to know what they did, read the book.
Yeah, or skip it. Who knows? Go to part 5. We'll start from there.
X decides that I'm not leaving by myself. We're taking everyone with us because everyone on that floor is apparently some sort of political enemy to Sir. I hate that we have to call him that. So he's like, we're going to do this. They managed to get all the doorways. They have to fight officers. And we have made it this far without any content warnings. And then she just straight to decapitation. A gory description of decapitation.
Yeah.
Goodness. Anyway, the important thing is they free all of these people. She meets Noriko, who was the tutor for Raffi that learned the secret and so disappeared. And at first I thought for some reason that it was her trainer. I was like, wait, she died in the first book. But no, this is the etiquette tutor of Raffi.
When they were like 12 or something.
It was young. It might have even been younger. Oh, no, it was 9 when this happened.
Yeah.
Because Noriko's like, you're so different from your sister. Even at age 9, I could tell you apart. And she's basically hinting toward the fact that Frey had empathy. She listened. She paid attention to other people's emotions. She cared where Raffi didn't. And that's how she knew the difference between Frey and Raffi. Even at age 9. I'm just saying.
Well, and physically too. She hadn't mastered the posture and all of the mannerisms that Raffi just got to exist.
Yeah, she got sent to Noriko because she couldn't master a very specific bow or something.
Yeah.
And so that's why she got sent to the lesson. So, hey, you can work on it and whatever. So she definitely hadn't mastered, but that's what she says is the reason I could tell that it was different was because Frey paid attention and had empathy to this other human being where Raffi just did not.
But also, how many of us are now thinking that Sir wasn't as bad of a guy? Because all of these enemies, he just kept them tucked away until he needed them.
I am surprised that they just went to prison instead of being killed.
Immediately, yeah, because everybody assumes that she died and everybody was killed.
But any points he gets for that gets taken away because of last part when we learned he's using teenagers to find radioactive waste.
Yeah. And also he did make a weird, creepy trophy room and had a picture of his wife and daughter in there.
And used a submarine to destroy an entire city.
And then pretended to help everybody else.
By bugging their mortar.
Okay, but he gets 1 point back and 100 points gone.
It is 1 point.
He does get 1 point.
It's still a YA series is honestly the only thing I can say here. I think that is the only reason we get, oh, they're still alive. Because like with Boss X, oh, he's either dead or captured. And then there's this heart-to-heart between X and Frey as they are waiting for cars to pull up or whatever. And Frey's like, so how do you feel about me killing your love? And X gives a little background on their relationship and how they knew going in that it was going to be a death wish and whatnot. And the brother actually snuck away so X wouldn't get killed and such and so forth.
So cute.
And then part 5, they escape in these ships, but Diego doesn't know that it's them, and so they kind of attack, and so they have to emergency land so Frey can get out and explain to them. And apparently the reason Diego escalated, they really were just gonna let one rebel boss get out of the city, I guess, but Riggs got a message out to them that nuclear waste was involved, which was of course confirmed when Frey was on the shame cam and whatever. They give her way too much credit. Diego thinks Frey purposely got on the shame cam to get out a message to Diego to be like, hey, something's wrong. Because they're like, there's no reason you would ever draw that much attention to you otherwise.
Y'all forgetting she's 17 and an idiot and doesn't know anything.
For real, though.
Does Diego still think she's Rafi?
Diego knows who she is. Diego knows she's Frey.
Okay.
One of the few people that know throughout this whole thing.
The back and forth, it's really hard to keep up with who knows what.
Yeah, that's fair. So it comes to, hey, we're going to start attacking the tower, but oh my gosh, where's all that nuclear stuff that he's been collecting? He really turned around a nuclear bomb very quickly. Didn't he just find where the nuclear waste was a day ago? Or was he getting other stuff and this was just in addition? I don't know. I have time questions, but that's beside the point. And he gets very on brand because it's like, well, where would his kill switch basically be? So he has the bomb in the tower where he's at. So Raffi shows up. The rebels come in on hoverboards because they're like, oh, we need to attack the tower. But Diego's like, well, we don't have the man force. And then Raffi shows up with the rebels. And the chapter ends with Frey saying, my big sister is here. She's still, even at the end of this book, trying to attribute good things to her sister. And it's that very unreliable narrator. Thankfully, it doesn't really bother most of the book. But Raffi reveals that she's always been keeping secrets from Frey. But also, hey, I learned that Diego wants to put you on the throne. Not so I want my father dead for the good of the people now, is she? Anyway, this whole scene, I just was a little shocked. Because Raffi is like, we're doing this. We're going right now. We're going into the tower. We're doing this right now. And she bombs certain areas. She's like, oh, my bedroom, the trophy room, and his communications center? I don't remember what the third one is. So they bomb those, and they're going to go in. And Raffi turns to Frey and is like, Frey, together we're unstoppable. And I was like, yeah, because Frey is unstoppable. You're just riding her coattails. But she's manipulative. So she twisted, like, we have to be together to be successful when Frey's the one just being successful. Sigh. Anyway, gonna skip most of this. There's even a scene where Frey finds out that Riggs shame-cammed Frey. Riggs is the reason behind it. On someone's orders. But Frey is too dense to realize whose orders. And even Cole's like, there is one person that would make her do this. And I was like, why are you guys speaking to riddles to her? She's dumb.
Well, even whenever in the last book, she ends up in, what was that rich girl's name? I don't know, but she ends up with her own apartment or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, Raffi just set this all up for me, kind of thing. And it's just, how far in advance was she planning with talking with that rich girl and setting up a whole apartment and the fields and the everything, and you still trust her?
Yeah.
She had plans.
And there was a sentence where it was like, oh, Raffi did this. No, she didn't. She's the one person in this whole group. You can claim nothing. Oh, gosh. Anyway, they go into the tower. They do a lot of fighting. And Raffi apparently can fight. I'm a little shocked. Apparently she's pissed, though. So she's fighting through. There's heavy infantry. They both manage to blah, 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 blah. The point is they finally get into the room and capture their father. X and Diego together captured him. And so Raffi's like, Frey, let's do this. And so Raffi continues to pretend to be Frey. And then Frey looks like someone completely different who I cannot pronounce the name of. And it's just, it feels so weird. It feels like Raffi is cosplaying the hero. Not her hero, just the hero. The hero of the day is Frey, so she's going to dress up like her and whatever. And yeah, that's what she does. She just pretends to be Frey. Anyway, for some reason, he refuses to not blow up the world unless both daughters are in the room. Well, y'all kind of shot yourselves in the foot here, pretending that Raffi was Frey, but he sees through it, and he's like, haha, well, my plan here is Raffi, you must kill Frey. Oh, okay. Raffi refuses to, and this is the sad part. I did not see coming. It's the third book out of 4, so I was not expecting this. He eventually phrases it like, you need to take the weakness from your heart and basically kill Frey's heart. He means it literally, and she's like, oh! And so Raffi throws the pulse knife at Cole, and yeah, he did. He gets torn to shreds.
R.I.P. Cole, Pillowbox forever.
That scene, and he does such a good job of describing it, because you can feel the shock she's in, but also still processing what's happening in the room. And the fact that the dad freaking laughs and he's like, yeah, that's close enough, and hands the dead switch to Raffi so she can take over.
He's like, yep.
Terrible. Literally passing over the reins to Raffi.
Well, because he knows he's gone for anyways.
For sure.
He was willing to literally blow up the whole city or whatever it was he was doing. But he's like, oh, my mini-me is me. Let's go.
Yeah, so.
Oh. This one hurt more than Zane. And I don't know if it's because we got more books with him or because he's a cute little teddy bear.
I felt angry with Zane because he was treated so freaking poorly, and I think that whole book was handled poorly, and so that made me angry more than anything, but also a little bit like, yeah, you didn't deserve Zane to begin with. I'm glad he's in a better place kind of vibes. But with Cole, I didn't see it coming. I thought this was going to be like extras where it's like, oh, she found her boy. It's just going to be her boy now, and it's YA. They haven't killed any main characters yet at all. This is the first main character they killed, and it's 3 out of 4. Like I said, I was not expecting to kill the love interest in the 3rd book out of 4, which makes me think maybe her and Box X do get together in the 4th book, or her and some rebel, or maybe she just stays angry, or whatever happens with this next book. I don't know how you read 3 books and didn't know a 4th was coming.
Well, I mean, I was reading them as they were coming out.
Yeah.
And to be fair, because Extras was so weird, the trilogy mindset made sense as ending.
The ending is Frey sent to Paz to recover because she goes into freaking shock, and Raffi doesn't visit, and she continues to be Frey. Diego's just like, well, Raffi's ruling right now, so we can't really move against her, and everything's not going to crap. And supposedly the dust isn't there, but even Frey's like, but it could be coming back. Who knows? And the one communication she does get from her sister just makes it so clear that Raffi still only sees Frey as an extension of herself. And it's just disgusting. Hate. If you're old enough to be a world leader, you're old enough to be a good person. And that's why I think I gave her less leeway, is she's literally ruling a city now. If you think you're old enough to do that, I'm going to treat you like an adult.
Well, and she did it so strategically that because she's being Frey, she got all of
the street cred,
the rebels on her side as Frey, and because they're like, oh, well, it's the damaged secret one and not the princess that's like her dad, she must be fine to rule. Because, I mean, even Diego wanted actual Frey to be the leader. So, oh, well, the people of Shreve kind of like her, love her, whatever.
Yeah, because Frey's the bad A that was fighting for them when Raffi just tucked her tail and still continued to support her father. Raffi's image got tanked by Frey taking her over again. And so Raffi's just like, cool, I'm just going to cosplay the hero, and everyone's going to treat me like the hero. And that's what she's doing. Frey was never a different person. There was just a personality that she could pull on at any time. I can't. You murdered Cole. There is nothing you can say that makes me feel bad for her at this point. She's gone past the pale.
Because obviously they eventually will justify her actions. And it's like, well, she was saving the whole city. Girl was looking out for number one.
The whole time.
The whole time.
She has always been sus.
She did technically save the city, but it wasn't.
Well, you find out. And I mean, granted, we knew that Raffi was the reason that Frey got shame cammed, but we find out, thanks to Riggs, that she did it so that Frey, in this new face, couldn't step forward and be like, yeah, I'm a part of this. I am Frey, or I am Raffi, or I am the other twin in any sort of way. She literally created a situation where, oh, you can't rise against me or say anything because everyone hates you.
But that also only works for a little bit because she could just surge her face or do the surgery or the whatever back to herself.
True.
That's what I don't get.
Raffi never counts on the fact that Frey will actually break away from her and have her own individual thoughts. And given the proof of how much grace Frey gives Raffi, I don't blame her for thinking so. The way Raffi treats her while she's in Paz recovery, not talking to her ever, and then finally getting a message through where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember at this point. I was so angry I deleted it from my brain. But it very obviously, you are an extension of myself. Don't ever think of yourself as your own person, whatever. I'm way more important, blah, 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 blah.
Direct quote.
Direct quote. No jargon, no exaggeration. Yeah, and then the book ends like, oh, Boss X is here to see you with someone. And I was like, okay, that's Tally. And then Paz is like, oh, yay, let's let them in. I've always wanted to meet Tally Youngblood. It was like, yeah, it was pretty obvious that was going to be Tally.
It's still a good moment. The rest of this book sucks.
I don't like Tally. And now that Raffi and her have kind of fused in my brain, I'm like, I don't want you back.
Will it make you feel better if we also get another person back from the past?
I swear if it's the freaking Fastio guy that I don't understand became an important character. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. It depends how it's played because we got Shay back in extras and Shay was pretty cool, but we mainly had to deal with Tally and then Shay was just like, yeah, I just followed Tally's orders. Lame.
Well, and they're also now in their like 30s or something.
It's been a bit.
We'll have to actually do the math before we get to the next book so we're not Googling stuff.
But it has been a hot minute since extras.
It's been years, yes.
So I don't even think they were alive when the Pretty Rain happened. So add 20-something years. So yeah, almost in her 40s. Freaking Andrew Simpson Smith out there still fighting the fight. He's not in this book, but he's still alive running around.
He's my favorite character.
Oh my goodness. We will see next book. General thoughts. If this book series doesn't end with Raffi dying, I literally don't know how you end this series. We have one book. How much filler was in this book? And granted, it's the last book, so the stereotype is the second of a trilogy is the lull, where it's, oh, you need to introduce enough to be a book and set up for the third book, but you can't resolve too many things. Otherwise, you don't need a third book. But the third of 4, it does feel like a filler book. I'll have to see when I read the 4th book, but it's just, there's so many things I swear are going to be dropped subplots from this book, but we will see. It's a lot of plan Bs. Let's just say that. A lot of plan Bs. One question for the author. I want to know when he knew he was going to kill Cole. Did he know it from the beginning when he was planning out the book series and was writing before even writing the first book? He's like, oh, I'm going to have a love interest and I'm going to kill them before the end of the book. Or was he writing and he got maybe even to the 3rd book and as he was writing, he was like, no, I need to kill Cole. I want to know when and how much of the books was set up, because I feel like if you knew going into the series that you were going to kill Cole in the 3rd book, you would make him a bigger deal in the 2nd book. But then he does come back and they make up and they're cute again. So I'm wondering if maybe in the writing of the 2nd book, he was like, no, I'm going to kill Cole. So I need to make him a really good boyfriend again. You know, I don't. So that is why I ask.
Are you just so good at writing really dumb teenage girls?
It is kind of impressive because everything I get mad at her about, I'm literally just like, oh, she's a teenager. It makes sense that she's doing it. But gosh, it's annoying.
He's in the 50s or something. I don't know.
I have no idea how he's tapped into the psyche. What has he done to encase himself so deeply in the psyche?
It's infuriating. Could be a real person.
Could be a real person. He could have very easily stereotyped what a teenage girl is like, because there are definitely plenty of men that have done that unsuccessfully. But having been a teenage girl, I am not mad at this representation at all. It's pretty accurate. And even in the first series, Hallie was not like other girls, but at the same time, he still had other female characters that were strong and powerful powerful and stuff. And so Tally was never used as a stick to beat the other characters with. So even in the age of not like other girls, he still had very realistic female representation. If anything, the guys were kind of lame and one-dimensional. I feel like Paris is pretty one-dimensional, and Fastio is not important. Why does he keep popping up? But
I just don't care about him at all.
Don't like him. I don't understand why he got to become a special and Paris didn't.
Paris didn't want to be.
He didn't want to jump from the hot air balloon. Anyway, this is beside the point. That is on that episode. But no, you are correct. It is very good. Rating, I'd give this a telenovela out of 10 because I was trying to explain the plot to my husband because I read the book and I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many emotions right now. And so I tried to explain it to him. He was just like, what are you reading? Like, her twin sister's evil and their dad's ruining the world and they're trying to take over and her twin sister ends up killing her love interest. And he's just like, what is happening right now? But it's so good. It's one of those things where looking in on it and you're like, yeah, that's insane. The mother-in-law kidnaps the bride-to-be and replaces her with the twin sister. And you're like, yeah, that sounds stupid. But when you're watching it and you're invested, you're really invested.
Also, that did technically happen in the first book.
True. So I'm just saying, we got some telenovela up in here. A Korean drama.
I will give it this could have been an email out of 10.
Oh my gosh.
Because
it really could. You could just read the titles of the parts and be like, okay, I know what happens.
Yeah.
Read again? Yes, maybe.
I want you to audiobook the whole thing.
That's fair. I probably would do that. I say I'd skip books all the time, but if I was rereading the series, I would probably read this book just because, you know, it's part of the series.
I just recently did the whole series and I skipped extras because extras is the worst. I hate it. But we've talked about it 4 or 5 different times today, so I shouldn't have skipped it.
It's so relevant even though he's trying very hard to not bring anything up from extras. I wonder if he agrees with you a little bit. What happened to the alien? Maybe it'll come up with the 4th book. I'm really hoping Tally shows up and she's like, yeah, my work with the extraterrestrials. Probably not. Anyway, favorite of the series so far, I still say Shatter City. You probably still say Imposters.
Yeah, that tracks.
I do not think Mirror Edge has done anything to change our minds, for sure.
No, this for sure is the bottom of the barrel.
But have you read this book? What was the biggest twist to you? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit like. And if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more. Thank you for exploring Mirror's Edge with us. Join us next time when we'll be covering The Valley West Side War by Harry Turtledove. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Danielle.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time. Escape With Me Book Club is a Lunar Skulk production. Check us out on TikTok or Instagram to keep up to date with us. Lunar_SKULK.